The royal palace of Vathar Prime gleamed under the light of twin suns. Its towering walls shimmered with colors that humans could hardly describe, hues that seemed alive, moving with the flow of the air itself. Captain Mark Wren, a human envoy, stepped carefully across the polished floors, feeling strangely small among the grandeur of alien architecture. Every step echoed, a soft reminder that he was far from Earth, far from everything familiar. Yet he stood tall, his uniform neat, his face calm. Inside, his heart raced. He had never faced a challenge like this, especially not from a royal alien princess. Silaria, the princess of Vathar, stood at the far end of the hall. Her eyes, like molten silver, glimmered with disbelief and pride. She was taller than most of her people, her posture perfect, her long fingers resting on her hips. "You're lying," she said suddenly, her voice sharp and cutting through the soft hum of the palace. "Humans cannot breed year-round. Tell me you are not daring to say otherwise." Mark looked at her steadily. He had expected skepticism, maybe even insult, but never outright challenge. Yet here it was, delivered with the weight of royal authority and disbelief. He drew a slow breath and spoke, his voice calm but carrying conviction. "Princess Silaria," he said, "I am telling the truth. Humans can reproduce year-round. It is part of our biology, part of our nature." The princess narrowed her eyes. "Prove it," she demanded, her silver eyes flashing like fire. "Show me evidence, show me proof, or leave my court." "I will not tolerate lies, Captain." Mark's stomach tightened. This was no small task. He was a guest, an outsider, and yet, here he was being asked to prove something extraordinary to a species that had dominated galaxies for millennia. But he did not flinch. He straightened his shoulders and nodded. "I will prove it, Princess. Not with words, but with evidence that you can see and measure." Silaria studied him. Suspicion etched on her face. "Evidence," she repeated slowly, as if tasting the word.
"Do you understand what that means, human?"
"My people have observed biology across dozens of worlds. Many species cannot reproduce freely. There are limits. Seasons, cycles, natural laws. Yet you claim your kind ignores these rules?" Mark nodded again. "Yes. Humans have adapted to survive in all kinds of environments. Extreme cold, scorching heat, unpredictable conditions. Our bodies are designed to take advantage of opportunity. We do not wait for a specific season. We adapt, we endure. And yes, that means we can reproduce year-round." Silaria's arms tightened across her chest. Her expression hardened, but inside her curiosity stirred. She had never encountered a species so bold as to claim something her people had assumed impossible. Her pride made her doubt him instinctively, but a small part of her wanted to know the truth. "Very well," she said finally, her voice quiet but commanding. "You will demonstrate it. I will allow my scientists to observe. But if you fail, Captain, your presence here will be considered an insult and my people will not forgive it easily." Mark felt the weight of her words, the tension in the room tightening like a vice. This was not just about biology. This was about trust, about respect, about the fragile bridge between two very different species. He swallowed hard, but inside a spark ignited. He had come so far, faced countless challenges, and this was just another test, one he intended to pass. He met Silaria's eyes, and in that moment, something unspoken passed between them. It was more than defiance. It was determination, courage, and a quiet confidence that humans carried deep in their bones. "I accept your challenge," he said firmly. "I will show you that humans are capable of what you think impossible." The princess's silver eyes glimmered with an emotion she did not fully understand. Curiosity, maybe even respect, though she would never admit it aloud. She turned away, signaling the end of the audience. But as Mark left the hall, he felt the unspoken tension lingering, the promise of a challenge that would test both his knowledge and the limits of human resilience. In that palace of impossible colors and alien grandeur, a quiet battle of trust and proof had begun, and Captain Mark Wren, human among stars, was ready to face it. The palace laboratory was vast and alien, filled with glowing devices, strange instruments, and humming machines that seemed to breathe. Captain Mark Wren walked carefully between the equipment, his human senses overwhelmed by the sights and sounds. He had expected this challenge to be hard, but he did not expect it to feel so alive. Every machine, every console seemed to watch him, measuring, analyzing, waiting for proof. Princess Silaria observed from a high platform above, her silver eyes narrowed. Her arms were crossed, her posture tense. She did not speak. but every movement of her body radiated skepticism. "This is nonsense," she muttered under her breath, though the words were barely audible over the hum of the lab. "No species can ignore cycles like this. No species can reproduce whenever it wishes. Humans." "You are lying," Mark ignored her doubt. He had anticipated disbelief. This was expected. Xylaria's people had catalogued life across countless worlds. They had rules, patterns, laws that seemed unbreakable. But humans were different. Humans thrived in chaos, adapted in ways that even the most advanced aliens could not predict. He took a deep breath and began his demonstration. He carefully prepared the samples he had brought, preserved human DNA, stored cells, and records of reproductive cycles. He explained each step to the royal scientists, who were initially reluctant to touch anything, their long fingers hovering nervously over the alien interfaces. Mark guided them patiently. "This is not magic," he said. "It is biology, evolution, and adaptability. Humans survive because we can take advantage of opportunity, not wait for a season." Xylaria watched him silently. She could not hide the faint twitch of curiosity in her eyes. His words were precise, his actions confident. Unlike other species she had met, he did not demand respect. He earned it quietly with patience and knowledge. Still, she would not admit it aloud. Pride kept her rigid, unmoving, like the frozen mountains of Vathor Prime. The experiment began in earnest. Mark demonstrated the fertility potential of human cells under different conditions: temperature changes, artificial light cycles, and chemical balances. Every step was meticulous, measured, and documented. Slowly, the alien scientists began to lean closer, murmuring among themselves as the results started to appear. "This is astonishing," one of them whispered, almost afraid to speak louder. "The cells respond, actively, even when cycles are altered." Xylaria's brow furrowed. She wanted to dismiss it, to deny it, to call it an error. But every measurement, every observation confirmed Mark's claims. Humans could reproduce year-round. Not just survive, but thrive. A ripple of something strange moved through her chest. Could this small, fragile species really defy what her people had believed for centuries? Mark noticed her hesitation and did not press. He understood the delicate balance of trust. Proof would not be accepted simply by showing numbers. She needed to feel it, to see it, to confront the reality with her own senses. He focused on the work, methodical, precise, letting the data speak for itself. As hours passed, a subtle change occurred. Xylaria stopped pacing. Her arms unfolded slightly. She leaned over the railing, watching him work with a mixture of fascination and disbelief. Her voice, when she finally spoke, was quieter, almost hesitant. "Why do you care so much to prove this, human? What drives you to fight for something so simple?" Mark paused, considering his words carefully. "Because, Princess," he said softly, "this is who we are. Humans do not just survive. We adapt, we endure, we thrive. And sometimes surviving is not enough. We have to show the universe that we can even when it doubts us." The words hung in the air, heavier than any machine's hum. Xylaria's silver eyes searched his, trying to find weakness, but there was none. Only resolve. Only truth. For the first time, a flicker of respect appeared on her face, tiny but undeniable. She would not admit it, not yet. But Mark could see it. And deep down, he knew this was only the beginning. This experiment was more than science. It was a bridge, fragile but real, between human courage and alien skepticism. And somewhere in the hum of glowing machines and alien calculations, a quiet challenge had begun, not of strength or weapons, but of belief, trust, and the enduring spirit of humanity. Days passed, and the palace of Vathor Prime buzzed with quiet tension. In the grand halls, advisors whispered behind closed doors, questioning the wisdom of letting a human prove his species' abilities. Yet Mark moved steadily, never faltering, always focused on the task before him. Every step, every demonstration, every careful explanation was precise. He had learned long ago that panic or doubt accomplished nothing. Persistence, clarity, and patience, these were the tools that humans wielded best. Princess Xylaria watched him silently from her balcony above the lab, arms crossed, silver eyes cold, yet attentive. She wanted to dismiss his claims outright, to return him to his world without a second thought. Yet every report from her scientists challenged her pride. The data was meticulous, the numbers undeniable. Humans could reproduce year-round. Her chest tightened, a sensation unfamiliar to a princess trained in control and perfection. Doubt clawed at her thoughts, though she fought it fiercely. Could this fragile species truly defy the rules we have observed for centuries? She wondered. She had always believed herself unshakable, the arbiter of knowledge, yet this human was challenging everything she knew. One evening, Mark entered the lab, carrying samples and adjusting equipment. Celeria descended the spiral walkway to confront him, her steps quiet but deliberate. "Why are you so confident?" she asked softly, almost hesitantly. "Do you not fear failure? Do you not fear that your species might be seen as weak?" Mark paused, considering her words. He looked up at her, meeting her silver gaze with calm sincerity. "Princess, humans survive because we do not fear challenges. We endure because we must, not because we are strong. Strength is not the absence of weakness. It is the choice to keep going when everything seems impossible. That is what allows us to thrive, even where others cannot." Cyleria's lips pressed into a thin line. She was not accustomed to being spoken to in such a way. Most species bowed to her authority without question. Most species would have faltered in her court, overwhelmed by its grandeur. Yet Mark spoke not with arrogance, but with honesty and quiet confidence. A small, unbidden flicker of respect arose in her chest, and she quickly turned her gaze away. "Your methods are different," she admitted finally, her voice low. "In your world, humans are said to be fragile, limited. Yet you act with certainty even when every rule suggests failure." Mark smiled faintly. "We are fragile, Princess. But fragility does not prevent resilience. It does not prevent ingenuity, and it does not prevent hope." The silence that followed was heavy, filled with unspoken thoughts and emotions neither of them dared to name. For the first time, Celeria felt the weight of curiosity mixed with hesitation. She was fascinated by this human, by his ability to command respect without force, to inspire trust without decree. Yet doubt remained. She had been taught to question everything. Her instincts told her to guard herself, to demand proof at every turn. "Very well," she said finally, her voice sharper. "Continue your demonstrations. I will watch closely, but know this: if you are wrong, it will not be forgiven easily." Mark nodded, his resolve unwavering. "I understand, Princess. I am prepared for the scrutiny. I am prepared for doubt. That is what humans are trained to do. We prove our worth not by words, but by action." That night, as the twin moons of Vathar Prime rose in the sky, Celeria sat alone in her private chamber, thinking of the human captain. She did not understand why his presence unsettled her so. Was it his knowledge? His confidence? Or was it the quiet strength he radiated? The kind that did not need validation from others, the kind her people rarely showed. Meanwhile, Mark reviewed his notes, aware of the subtle tension building not just in the palace, but between himself and the princess. He did not rush or pressure her. He knew that trust and understanding could not be forced, they had to grow. And in the quiet hum of alien machinery, amidst data and observation, a fragile bond began to form, one that might one day bridge the gap between human resilience and alien pride. The challenge had begun, but neither fully realized that it was not only a test of biology, it was a test of heart, spirit, and the enduring courage that defined humanity. The laboratory was brighter than usual that morning, sunlight from the twin suns spilling across the polished floors. Captain Mark Wren moved with quiet determination, carefully adjusting instruments and recording observations. The royal scientists were present, their expressions cautious but intrigued. They had observed the human cells over days, weeks even, and slowly, the impossible had begun to unfold before their eyes. Princess Celeria stood silently behind a glass barrier, arms crossed, her posture rigid. She had watched him for hours, skeptical at first, then curious, then something else she could not name. Every result, every carefully documented finding pointed to the same astonishing truth. Humans could indeed reproduce year-round. The numbers were precise, the data undeniable, and yet her pride bristled at the thought of admitting it. Mark spoke to the alien scientists with calm authority. "Observe the cellular activity here. Note how the reproductive cycles respond even when environmental conditions are altered. Humans are not bound by seasons alone. We adapt, and our biology reflects that adaptability." One of the alien scientists, tall and slender with translucent skin, whispered to his colleague, eyes wide. This should not be possible. The data is consistent. The cells are responding, actively beyond the natural limits. Silaria's silver eyes narrowed. This is deception, she said softly, though her voice lacked conviction. There must be an error. Humans cannot defy the laws of life across planets. Mark turned to her calmly. Princess, this is not deception. This is what humans have learned from survival. When the world changes, we change with it. When opportunity arises, we take it. That is how we endure. That is how we thrive. For the first time, Xilaria felt a flicker of something unfamiliar. Respect. She hated to admit it, hated to feel it, yet it was undeniable. This human, so ordinary in appearance, carried a strength that did not demand attention but commanded it all the same. There was courage in his calm, knowledge in his patience, and a quiet determination that shook the foundations of what she had believed about humans. Hours passed, and the breakthrough became undeniable. The human reproductive samples continued to show activity, thriving under conditions her people had assumed impossible. The alien scientists leaned closer, documenting every detail, their earlier skepticism giving way to astonishment. Xilaria felt a strange sensation in her chest, a mix of disbelief, pride, and admiration. She had always believed humans to be fragile, limited, incapable of such endurance. Yet here was proof, irrefutable, undeniable, and the human standing before them, calm and resolute, had delivered it not through arrogance but through knowledge and patience. Captain Wren, she said finally, her voice quieter than before, almost hesitant. It appears you are telling the truth. Mark's gaze met hers, steady and unyielding. I told you, Princess. Humans survive because we adapt. We endure because we must. And we thrive because we refuse to surrender to limitations. Silaria's arms loosened slightly at her sides. She looked away, struggling with the pride that refused to yield. She had been challenged and she had lost, not in battle, not in debate, but in understanding. And yet a new feeling stirred within her, curiosity. Perhaps humans were not so simple, so fragile. Perhaps there was more to them than she had ever imagined. Your methods are remarkable, she admitted quietly, almost to herself. I had not expected this. Mark inclined his head modestly. It is not about expectation, Princess. It is about persistence, observation, and trust in what is possible. Humans survive because we believe we can, even when the universe doubts us. A silence followed, heavy with the weight of realization. Silaria's mind raced with thoughts she had never allowed herself to entertain. Could it be that humans, so small, so fragile in appearance, possessed a resilience unmatched by even the most advanced species in the galaxy? Could it be that this species, overlooked and underestimated, held a potential her people had never imagined? As the twin suns dipped toward the horizon, casting long shadows across the lab, Xilaria finally met Mark's gaze fully. There was no anger, no doubt, only a glimmer of something deeper. Respect, fascination, and a seed of understanding that had taken root despite herself. In that moment, the impossible became real. The human had proven what she had never believed, and in doing so, had opened a door to possibilities she had never considered. And as she turned to leave, her mind could not stop thinking of him. Not just the experiment, but the human standing quietly, confidently, at the center of a breakthrough that challenged the galaxy itself. The night sky of Vathar Prime glowed softly, twin moons casting silver light across the palace gardens. Captain Mark Wren walked along the winding paths, his mind still replaying the breakthrough in the lab. The human samples had proved what he had claimed, yet the weight of the princess's skepticism still lingered in the air. He knew the data spoke for itself, but in this place, truth alone was never enough. Convincing Xilaria required more than proof. It required trust, understanding, and patience. Xilaria appeared silently beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the moonlight. She did not speak at first, simply observing the way he moved, the calm in his posture. She had spent hours in the lab watching him work, noting every careful gesture, every patient explanation. And for the first time she felt something stir inside, a crack in the armor of disbelief she had carried for centuries. You have shown me something I did not expect, she said quietly, her voice unsteady. I believed humans were fragile, limited, weak. But you... She paused, searching for words she rarely used. You are different. Your kind is resilient, clever, persistent. Mark turned to her, a gentle smile on his face. We survive because we must. We endure because giving up is not an option. That is the way of humans. We do not wait for perfect conditions. We make the conditions perfect ourselves. Her gaze softened, though she struggled to meet his eyes directly. And yet, she whispered, even knowing this, I find it difficult to accept. I have observed countless species, and none have shown what your kind can do. Mark stepped closer, careful to respect her space. Princess, it is not about being the strongest or the fastest. It is about believing in what is possible. Humans endure because we trust in ourselves, even when the odds are impossible. That is how we survive. That is how we thrive. She looked down, brushing a lock of silver hair from her face, unsure how to respond. The words struck a chord within her, a melody of admiration and surprise she had never known. She realized she had underestimated humans, not just their biology, but their spirit, their courage, their ability to challenge impossible odds. Why do you care so much to prove this to me? She asked finally, her voice softer, almost curious. You could have left this place without ever confronting my doubt. Why risk so much? Mark's eyes met hers, steady and sincere. Because, Princess, humans do not shy away from challenges. We do not hide from doubt. We meet it head on. And I wanted you to see that our strength is not in our size or our power or our technology. It is in our will, our determination, our ability to endure when no one expects us to. A long silence followed. The garden around them was quiet. The only sound, the soft rustling of alien leaves in the gentle breeze. For the first time, Xylaria felt the weight of humility, tempered by awe. She had underestimated him. She had doubted him. And yet here he stood, proving not just science but the resilience of his species. Slowly, she met his gaze fully, her silver eyes reflecting the twin moons above. I did see it now, she admitted softly. Perhaps humans are not as small or fragile as we have always believed. Perhaps there is more to you than we understand. Mark's smile widened slightly, a warmth in his voice. There's always more to discover, Princess. About the universe, about life, about each other. That is the way of humanity. We are small, but we endure. We are fragile, yet we survive. And sometimes even the smallest can change what the galaxy believes to be impossible. For the first time, Xylaria allowed herself to feel something like admiration, not for the victory of proof, but for the spirit behind it. She realized that this human had not only proven a fact, but had shown her the heart of his species. Courage, resilience, determination, qualities she had never seen in her own people, at least not without pride and pomp. As they stood together under the twin moons, a quiet understanding passed between them. The experiment was more than success. It was connection. The distance between human and alien, between doubt and belief, had narrowed in ways neither of them had expected. In the soft silver light, Xylaria felt a spark of respect, curiosity, and perhaps even friendship. For the first time, she wondered what humans might achieve if given the chance, and what secrets of the universe they might reveal to those willing to watch and learn. The princess had been challenged. The human had endured. And in the quiet garden of Vathar Prime, a bond began to grow. A bond that neither species could have anticipated, and one that would change everything to come. The grand hall of the palace was alive with energy. Scholars, scientists, and dignitaries from across Vathar Prime gathered, their voices low with anticipation. Today was not just another experiment, it was a formal ceremony, a recognition of the human captain who had challenged centuries of alien understanding. Captain Mark Wren stood at the center of the hall, his posture steady, his face calm. He had come prepared, but the presence of so many witnesses made his heart beat faster. Princess Xylaria entered quietly, her silver eyes sweeping the room. She had always maintained authority, a perfection of poise and command, yet today something felt different. There was a tension in her chest, an unfamiliar mix of pride, curiosity, and something more. She had watched him work, observed every careful step, and seen the undeniable proof of his claims. Humans could reproduce year-round. And now, the moment of acknowledgement had come. The head scientist stepped forward, presenting the compiled results of the experiment. The data is clear, he announced. Under controlled conditions, human reproductive cycles are not bound by seasonal changes. The evidence is consistent and replicable. Captain Wren has demonstrated what was previously considered impossible. A murmur ran through the hall, a mixture of disbelief and awe. Xylaria's silver eyes narrowed as she studied Mark. her pride wrestling with the undeniable truth. She had doubted, resisted, and challenged him, yet here he stood, calm and unwavering, having proven his species' resilience beyond question. The princess finally approached him, her steps measured and deliberate. The crowd fell silent, sensing the weight of the moment. Xylaria's gaze met Mark's, a mixture of respect and curiosity shining through her usual stern expression. "You have shown me something I did not believe possible," she said softly, her voice carrying clearly across the hall. "Not only about your species, but about courage, determination, and heart. You have proven that humans endure, even when faced with doubt and impossibility." Mark inclined his head respectfully. "Thank you, Princess. It is not about proving superiority, but about showing what is possible when determination meets opportunity. Humans endure because we choose to, not because we are invincible." Xylaria studied him for a moment, her mind racing. She had expected a human to fail, to falter under scrutiny, to show weakness, yet this one had done none of those things. He had met every doubt with patience, every skepticism with evidence, and every challenge with unwavering determination. For the first time, she felt admiration, not just for the result, but for the spirit behind it. The princess turned to the assembled court. "Let it be known," she declared, her voice resonant, "that Captain Mark Wren of humanity has demonstrated an ability heretofore unseen in this galaxy. His species is capable of thriving where others cannot, enduring where others fail. Their resilience is remarkable and their spirit undeniable." The hall erupted in cautious applause. Even the most skeptical advisors could not deny the truth. And as the sound washed over him, Mark felt a quiet pride, not in personal recognition, but in what it meant for humanity. Their resilience, their courage, their adaptability, qualities often underestimated, had been seen, acknowledged, and respected by one of the most powerful species in the galaxy. After the ceremony, Xylaria walked with him in the palace gardens, the twin moons reflected in her silver eyes now softened with genuine curiosity. "You have changed the way I see humans," she admitted quietly. "I once believed you were fragile, limited, weak, but you have shown me otherwise." Mark smiled gently. "It is not about being the strongest, Princess. It is about refusing to give up. We survive, we endure, and sometimes we thrive even when no one expects it." Xylaria's gaze lingered on him, an emotion she rarely allowed herself showing faintly in the curve of her lips. "Perhaps humans have much to teach us," she said softly. "Perhaps we have underestimated what courage truly means." For the first time, the distance between human and alien felt smaller, almost insignificant. Respect had grown where doubt once stood, and in the quiet glow of Vathar Prime, a fragile connection began to form, not only between Mark and Xylaria, but between two species that had only just begun to understand each other. The challenge had been met, the proof undeniable, and the bond between alien skepticism and human resilience had been quietly forged. It was a turning point, not just for the experiment but for the galaxy itself. The twin suns of Vathar Prime dipped toward the horizon, painting the sky with shades of gold and crimson. The palace gardens were quiet now, bathed in soft light, the air carrying the faint hum of alien life. Captain Mark Wren stood at the edge of a terrace, looking out at the distant mountains, his mind heavy with reflection. The experiment was over. The proof had been made clear. Humans could reproduce year-round, and more importantly, their resilience had been recognized by one of the galaxy's most advanced civilizations. Princess Xylaria appeared beside him, her silver eyes reflecting the fading light. She had spent days observing, questioning, and finally accepting what she had once refused to believe. The breakthrough had challenged not only her understanding of humans, but her own pride and assumptions. She had always believed her people to be the arbiters of knowledge. But Mark had shown her something greater, not just science, but spirit. "You've proven it," she said softly, her voice carrying a rare warmth. "Humans are capable of enduring, of thriving, of overcoming limitations we once thought absolute. I see it now." Mark turned to her, his expression calm but full of quiet pride. "It is not just about proving facts, Princess. It is about showing what is possible when determination meets opportunity. Humans endure because we refuse to give up. That is our strength." Xylaria studied him, her mind racing with thoughts she had never dared voice before. "I underestimated your kind," she admitted. "I assumed you were fragile, limited, incapable of meeting the challenges of the galaxy. But you have changed that view. You have shown courage, patience, and determination beyond what I imagined. Mark smiled gently. We are not perfect, Princess. We fail, we struggle, we are often weak. But when it matters most, we endure. That is humanity. That is why we survive, and why we thrive where others may not. For a moment, silence fell between them, a peaceful understanding that needed no words. The palace gardens glimmered with alien light, the air soft with the scent of unknown flowers, and the distant mountains stood as silent witnesses to this moment of connection. Silaria finally spoke again, her tone reflective. Perhaps there is